I really don't have very many fears. I trust myself.
Hi, welcome back to Let Me Ask You Something, the weekly podcast where I, M.D. Pittman, talk to everyday people about something extraordinary that happens in their lives. Now, this week I talked to Doris Lance. Now, she's from California, and she is very interesting. She's an author, and she is a naturalist. She can talk knowledgeably about botany, about photography, about wildlife, about getting to nature. She is, as I said, a very interesting person. So here's my conversation with Doris.
Doris Lance, how are you doing today?
Yay. Well, I'm living in the central coast of California,
All right.
and the sun's out. There's a slight breeze. It's a little warm inland, but anytime is a good time to take a hike.
Yes. So Doris Lance, you are the author of Botanical Reflections. It's a book of photographs of wildflowers in their natural environment. And you took these photos while logging more than 5,000 miles on foot. You've trekked below the sea level in Death Valley in California, all the way up to more than 11,000 feet above sea level in Patagonia, Chile. And a lot of these flowering finds are in your book. You've also trekked, but not limited to, the Isle of Skye in Scotland, the Machu Picchu Trail in Peru. It sounds something out of Pokemon. Mount Fuji in Japan, ancient Bristol Cone in the pine forest of California. So, Doris, let me ask you something.
Yes.
How did your inquisitive nature lead you to this life of wellness and nature?
Well, I'm not sure where it came from, but I think a strong influence came from living in Western North Carolina. There's just such beautiful country back in Western North Carolina. And there's two mountain ranges that converge. And it's the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains. So that's actually three, but they're all interconnected.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Western North Carolina, and from day one, it was like I was outside. It was like I was a born naturalist. I wanted to explore the trees, the leaves, the creeks, the streams, the wildflowers, the animals. And so anytime if it was dinner time, it was like, go get Doris because we know where she is.
Yes. So what about that really, like, what does that do for you? Like, how do you feel when you're out there? I mean, is it something that just, I mean, obviously it seems like a natural fit, no pun intended, but why are you so attracted to the outdoors?
There's something about nature that you may have heard of nature bathing for the five senses.
Mm-hmm.
And the Asians have developed in Japan, I believe, forest bathing for the senses. And it's where you take your five senses and you go outside.
Just immerse yourself, right?
And immerse yourself. Feel the breeze on your face, hear the birds sing, or the coyotes howling in the morning, or and just see the different colors, the leaves. And back in Ohio or the East Coast, I mean, you've got some of the most beautiful fall foliage that there is. Yeah. The Appalachian Trail is just full of that, and just to absorb that in. And it's like a prescription for some mental quietness while you're working out.
How important is that, for especially nowadays? I mean, we're integrated with technology. I mean, we're talking virtually here. We're always on our cell phones or some sort of electronic device. How important is that to do that forest bathing or nature bathing to get back to that peaceful tranquility?
Or self-care. I like to say self-care. I think I can only go by the feedback that I've been getting from a psychologist that works with veterans. She sent me a text and said, your book, the questions in your book have caused so many people to find a way to express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a licensed social worker that said, this is so important even for teens, because sometimes when they have frustrations at home, not being with their friends at school, they can answer your question. And it's really a nature journal. It
Yeah.
has a question, and then it has a very famous quote. And then it has one of my flowers that I drew from a real flower on the trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it black and white in the book because I want people to express some creativity.
Maybe they'll color it in.
Color it in, make it a puzzle, cut it up in pieces and make a puzzle. Just get their mind off of the negativity.
So it's not more of a static book. It's an interactive book. You make it with what you want of it.
Very interactive. And I can show you the cover. The cover, Botanical Reflections, I designed the cover, and that particular flower came from Scotland.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've got them from Japan, Peru, Canada.
Now, how has this changed? I mean, this seems like your love for nature really puts you on a trajectory of where you're at now. How did that? I mean, talk a little bit about your life. I was going to say how has your life changed, but it really hasn't changed. But I mean, you don't know. Growing up, you didn't know what you were going to become, but you seem like this was just a natural fit. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that journey?
I can, because when you have a glove and your hand fits in the glove snugly, that's how this has really fit into my life. And I must tell you, the interest came from other people on trails and on trips that I've taken.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hopped a freighter in the fjords of Chile and went down to Torres de Paine. And people are asking me, well, where did you get this shot? Well, where is that hike? And their interest and their continuing questions, which I still get today on Instagram, is I'm going to the Valley of Fire. What's a good hike in the Valley of Fire? And what do I have to watch out for? And is there snakes on the Appalachian Trail? And I think it grew out of other people, their interest bringing up what I could offer to the people who weren't as skilled or hadn't been doing physical exercise very much.
Yeah. So I guess, what puts you from being a naturalist or being in nature here in the United States to traveling around the world and to really get these wildflowers and, I guess, catalog them or document them?
Right. I think that's innate in me. I really don't have very many fears. I trust myself. And the reason why I started trusting myself is I learned that I could survive on trails and on treks and traveling by myself, sometimes solo. And I began in, I think it was the late 90s, which was quite a long time ago, traveling and hiking internationally. And I did cave exploring in Thailand. And then I ended up in Japan and I did Fujisan, Mount Fuji.
What's your favorite trail? Where would you go? Where do you want to go over and over and over again?
Wow. That's asking like,
Who's your
which
favorite
one's your
child?
favorite child? Whoa.
Yeah. Well, top three.
I'll say the top one. I don't mind. I mean, sometimes, and your listeners will realize when you find a special place, whether you're trout fishing or hiking, you don't want everybody to know about it. You know,
Yeah.
you kind of want to keep it to yourself. But things are closed now. And my favorite, most magical hike I ever did was going down 2,800 feet. I started at 5,000, like 200, went 2,800 feet down to the bottom of Havasupai Canyon.
Where's
to
that
the
at?
tribe. That's in Arizona.
Okay.
Actually, it's part of that whole Grand Canyon, Havasupai Canyon, and it goes down into Mexico to Copper Canyon.
Okay.
But here's the challenge. You got to go back up.
Yeah.
So you got 2,500 feet to go back up.
Yes.
But
you could lose your breath with that because you're going below sea level, aren't you? Or how far below sea level is that if you're going
you're
up?
at the bottom, I think. No, at the bottom it's like in the low 2,000.
Oh, you're still well above. Okay, so you're not going to be oxygen deprived other than the exertion that you're going to be doing walking that distance.
Well, you would think, but however, I must bring a caveat to that. If you live at sea level and you even go to 2,800 feet, some people find their breath, but then they go to 9,000 feet, say on the Mount Whitney Trail, which I've done many times. Boy, it's like, who is stepping on my chest?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, your chest burns.
So with this, you have pretty much, I see it as twofold here. Your nature and getting back to your naturalism here, and then also this wellness that are really tied together. Can you talk a little bit about that tying together of why both these worlds of your wellness and the naturalism or your nature not hunting. I'm not being able to find the word here. It's sad for a writer and a journalist. Yes, your exploration. Sorry, but how does that tie together?
There was a study in 2010, I believe, in Japan, and they found that the human mind longed for a nature connection, something that's created that can't be made, and something that brings so much joy and fulfillment. And I saw that as something that I had started very young in my life. And now with the COVID, I know every state is different, but I've had a lot of feedback of people saying, well, I can't go to the Valley of Fire, or I can't go to Chile. And I said, do you have a neighborhood park?
Yeah.
Is there a park bench somewhere on your neighborhood walk? How about your backyard? I mean, just go out and try that and give me some feedback. What did you feel? Did you feel that your mind was a little bit clearer and you didn't have the stress? And I can't think of any that said, oh, I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody's thing right now is taking care of themselves and their family.
Yeah, when we talked before earlier, you had mentioned a couple quotes that you like here. One is that if you don't make time for yourself, or I'm sorry, your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. And then if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So can you talk about how those quotes, because I've seen variations of these quotes around and as well, but can you talk about how those quotes, what do they mean to you?
To me, they mean at 77, which is my current age, that I'm still hiking 24 miles in 4 days. And that it's just not existing, it's enjoying life.
Yeah.
And that quote, the first one that you said, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. I mean, if that's not truth with a capital T.
Yes.
Because you can't enjoy your whatever your vocation or avocation or your talent or your family, if you don't have health to be able to enjoy life, to either play sports or bowl or sing or travel, it requires someone who has some strength and stamina and clarity of mind.
So what are some of the, can you talk a little bit about some of the other health benefits that when you connect with nature, what else does that benefit for you? What I guess, is there a laundry list of what happens to the body when you do that?
There is, and I've done a lot of research on that one. And they were talking about that 2010 study in Japan, and they were saying that there was significant lowering of cholesterol levels by getting out, breathing, doing some exertion,
Yeah.
Building the stamina, building the strength, and getting oxygen. It builds, that study also was talking about boosting the immune system. And we've heard a lot about immune system. The pulse rate is an exercise for the heart. That's a muscle like anything else. I mean, it's an organ, but it has muscles that help it function. Lowering blood pressure. And the big one that I see in business today is those that are stressed out, either A, by losing their business, B, closing their business, or C, can't find a job.
Yeah.
Now, those three areas have stress that kind of comes along with it.
Oh, yeah.
And and so what is free? I mean, you have to pay to go into a national park now, but it's minimal. But your neighborhood park or just your neighborhood, or if you live close to any mountain range, there's usually a little kiosk that will show you 1 mile, half a mile. And I think that is a huge benefit.
Yeah, I know in Ohio here, you might have to drive or bike a little bit to it, but there is an effort over the last 20, 25, 30 years for the state, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, to build a Miami to Miami trail. And it's called by various names, but you can, the goal is to be able to go from Cincinnati all the way to Piqua along the Great Miami River, and that's hundreds of miles, with stops all along the way in various cities and counties. Granted, you don't have to do the whole trek, but the whole purpose for that in Ohio here, at least, is to connect everywhere by these trails for hiking and biking and walking. And so I think that is a big push, I know, in this state, and I'm sure other states as well. Could you talk about the importance of not Ohio, but state governments or governments pushing that health initiative?
Well, North Carolina has one, and that's where I grew up, of course. I haven't lived there in years, but it's still got a special place in my heart. And when I was back there 2 years ago, because I didn't travel last year at all, and I don't plan to do anything outside the United States this year. I usually go out to Europe. Well, I haven't I've been more to Asia, South America,
Mhm.
and Canada. But the North Carolina state has done something similar to what they're doing on Ohio, where they're going from the coast to the mountain trail.
Okay. Okay.
So they start on the east coast of North Carolina and they end up on the west coast,
The western
Asheville,
border.
North
Yeah.
Carolina. Yeah, yeah. And I know I Googled Ohio trails and I was very impressed. I
Yeah.
found 1,731 trails just in the state of Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah. They're trying to connect all this from the Great Miami River to the Little Miami River, which is on the western side of the state and goes from the southern to the northern part of the state, and all these other trails. That's something that a lot of them want or do. The state's doing it because the public wants it. So you're seeing a
Right.
lot of people wanting these trails in the state, and the counties and the cities are abiding by those requests because that's what they want. Well, we'll give what the people want is what they get. So
And they get an extra benefit of having good health
yes,
and increased digestion. You were talking about one of the benefits, better digestion for
yeah,
sure. And yeah, I noticed that you had quite a few state parks, a lot that looked interesting to me,
hmm
like Hocking Hills
hmm
State Park, Caesar Creek.
yeah,
I love that. John Bryan. Um, and one that I couldn't pronounce, a Valley National Park. It was Cuyahogga,
Cuyahoga.
Cuyahoga. So
That's
that's
up
an
in the
Indian word.
that's up in the Cleveland area. Yeah, well, there's a
Okay,
lot of Indian words in Ohio. Ohio is an Indian word in and of itself too.
right.
So getting back to some of the flower side of your, I'm interested to know what's your favorite flower. I'm always interested in somebody's favorites, and I guess that might be picking a favorite child too. But what's your favorite flower, and why do you find it so intriguing to do that, to identify them, to draw them, to take pictures of them?
Um, I can't answer that easily. And I've got a story to go along with it.
Oh, love stories.
It's a desert 5 spot.
Desert five spot.
And yes, if you've ever been to Badwater Basin in Death Valley, it's like 260 plus feet below sea level. So you walk out in the valley and there's no trees unless there are mesquite trees by an oasis somewhere. You can always know there's water somewhere close by if you see anything green, because
Yeah.
it's like you're on another planet. And so, like, I'm hiking along and I see this pink object.
Yeah.
And I thought, I would love to get my hands on the person who left that plastic bag or whatever. I mean, they had no respect for the
You're gonna
sacred
throttle
land.
somebody.
Yeah. And so I walked over to it, and it was a tulip type flower,
Okay.
was pink of all colors, not yellow. There's a lot of yellows.
Now, what shade of pink? You got a variety of shades. Is it just like your
It's a
traditional pink?
vibrant.
A
It's
vibrant
a
pink?
vibrant,
Okay.
and it's cupped. It's like a tulip almost. And you look down in the center. I think I have a black and white of that in my book. You look down in the center, and there are 5 purple spots.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
you stand there and you go, how could anything
Okay, so that's the
live?
black and white. That's the black and white version. Okay.
Could anything live? I mean, I think that day it was 117. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How can
Okay.
anything live in that and be so beautiful?
And thrive. And
Yeah.
I found out from some of the locals who are a good resource that they don't bloom every year.
Yeah. Okay.
Death Valley gets sometimes like 1 inch, 2 inch a year. We're in Ohio,
You
East
get that
Coast,
in a half
Pennsylvania,
hour.
North. Yeah, you can get 2 inches in half day.
Yeah.
And on that same page, one of the inspirations I put down there, I ask a question opposite those sketches, and I said, name some of your heroes and why. And it gets to thinking, and it gets you to think, well, who's really influenced my life, and how important is that?
Okay, let's try it with you. Who's influenced your life? Who's your heroes?
My hero, I would say everybody in my family is a hero for me, but a non-family member that's a hero is John Muir. And on a more spiritual side, I would say Mother Teresa.
Okay.
Because their love and respect, not only for what's created, nature, but for other people as well. Okay. And to me, wow, that's a wow for me.
Yeah. Now, getting back to the other part of the question I had initially, why do you want to draw and document these? I guess I think we might have touched this a little bit earlier, but can you talk a little bit about why do you feel compelled to do that?
I feel compelled to do it because so many people cannot get out in nature and do the really tough hikes. You know, do a 2,000, 3,000 feet elevation gain, or go to 14,000 feet in the White Mountains near Mount Whitney. But they can see.
Yeah.
They can take a tour, virtual tour, you might say, of what grows there and what lives there. And I wanted to encourage people because I'm finding that not only people my age, but younger people are really struggling with their weight during this COVID.
Yeah.
And then, they're gaining weight and they don't want to do that. But I've got a saying, motion is lotion for the body. So it could be bowling, it could be swimming, it could be horseback riding, movement. Yeah. Movement. Lotion is motion for the body.
How has this helped you? I mean, you're 77 years old doing all this. I can't even imagine that, and I'm 47 years old. So can you talk a little bit about the importance, I guess, the importance of doing this, and especially being a role model of saying, hey, if I can do this, you can do this. If I can do this at this level, you can do it at a much lower level.
That's my goal. My goal, I'm calling everyone that is inactive or maybe takes a walk 2 or 3 times a week. I'm calling them grasshoppers. And I go, I'm not Yoda, but I'm trying to influence you, grasshopper, to move, to get out and move. The body is wonderfully made, and you don't want to just live longer. You want to live better.
That's pretty profound right there.
I know.
Yeah. So are there any hazards to this? I guess, I mean, obviously, if you're stagnant and you're not moving, you want to take it slow. But are there any other hazards to this, especially the way you do it? I mean, that can be dangerous for somebody going from 0 to 100. But just for the average Joe, average Jane out there, what are some of the tips that you would give to them if they're really starting out?
Make sure you have plenty of water. Water is essential. Hiking in Death Valley, I found that most people had one water bottle, and that's not going to get, no. Good shoes. If you're going to invest in anything, make sure there's real good shoes.
Yeah. And
layers. And I've got a story about hazards.
Okay.
Some of my friends have heard this story, and this just happened 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm hiking in the Santa Lucia mountain range in Central California, and I'm about, I don't know, only 3,000 feet up, and I've been hiking for about an hour, and here comes down the trail this guy in camouflage, total camouflage from the top of his head, his boots, and he's got a rifle over his shoulder. And I'd never seen that on the trail. And he said, I'm looking for wild pigs, javelinas. And they do grow. I mean, they do wander around.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know what borderlines are.
Yeah.
And so there are wild pigs here. And he said, I didn't see any wild pigs, but are you going to the top? And I said, I expect to, yeah. And he said, well, there's a mountain lion up there.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, for real? And he said, yeah, I don't know how you feel about that. And I said, well, I'm very comfortable in nature. I really am. But I'm very respectful of nature too.
Yeah.
And I said, so where was he exactly? And if you're looking at a clock, he said at 1 o'clock, when you get to the ridge, look at 1 o'clock. And he was leaving, he was turning, he stood and looked at me, and then he turned and he went down the hill. I said, did he have any baby cubs with him? No. Mm-hmm. So I felt pretty secure, but I made some noise. Yeah. We constantly made noise going up, and there were other people on the trail ahead of us. So I thought, well,
if they're around still, it might be a little safe.
They may be, they may have the bad luck, and I may have the good luck, but that happens. I mean, I've seen bears on the trail, snakes.
Yeah,
but
it's like the adage of if a wild animal or a tiger is trying to chase you, you don't have to be the fastest. You just don't have to be you just don't be the slowest.
That's right. That's right. And usually they don't want to have anything to do with you. I've never seen nature where they want to come to me.
What are some tips for newbie wildflower hunters? And what's the best time of year to start?
Well, you know, it used to be pretty well set in stone, and now with the different temperatures changing and the precipitation changing, usually start looking at the end of March. And then by the 1st of April, they start blooming, and depending on where you live and the elevation, see, that's intriguing to me.
Yeah.
That in Death Valley, the wildflowers can be almost gone, and you go up to Wild Rose Peak, and there's wild roses blooming at 7,000 feet. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it has a lot to do with your elevation, but anytime after March, now this year they started blooming early because we had, it depends on the rain. If it comes in October, December, or no rain at all, that's going to shorten their lifespan. Yeah. So they'll bloom in 2 days they're gone.
Yeah. And I don't know how apt a lot of people are going to be, at least in the Midwest here, coming soon, because we have cicadas, the 17-year-old Brood X cicadas coming out. So I don't know how many people
saw that.
Yeah, it will be they are annoying little buggers.
Well, you know what I found annoying was back east was mosquitoes in Florida, especially. Mm-hmm. But what you do if it's going to be a year like that, use that time to plan, do some research, Google wildflowers of whatever area. Sometimes there's a native plant society in the larger towns, and they put on lectures, or they have webinars online where you can learn about other species in your area, like the Venus flytrap in North Carolina. I mean, there's certain species that don't just grow everywhere. Okay. So use that time to kind of plan, and Yeah, you don't want to be out in that. No.
I gotta cut grass in that. That's and
Oh,
and that
no.
noise attracts them. So that's yeah. Anyway,
You're going to go out. You're going to go out and mow your lawn, and you're going to have this helmet on, and you're going to look like a spaceman or something.
They sell them. A lot of people are buying them. I have a friend of mine who bought something like that. It was basically, it looks like a big giant net that's kind of boxy.
Wow.
All right. Well, Doris, I think we're getting close to that half hour. I think we're past that here, but can you talk a little bit about your next adventure? What's next for you?
Well, I had planned to go to Slovenia and hike hut to hut. They have more of those in Europe than they do in the US. However, I did not book my flight, and I'm glad I didn't, because I'm going to wait.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stay in the United States. There's Arches, that is in Utah. There's Canyonlands.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many beautiful places. The Appalachian Trail, the Blue Ridge Mountains outside of Asheville. Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna stay local and not go international quite yet, because I wanna do it smartly.
Yeah.
And that's something else that I should mention. Every adventure I go on, when I hiked down in Patagonia, I did all the research. I found out what the temperature was going to be, what the time of day was, when it got dark. Of course, I have a headlamp,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to know, I want in my knowledge pack here everything that I might encounter, so I'll be prepared.
Great. All right. Any parting words of wisdom you wish to bestow on everybody listening?
Well, I got to pitch my book.
Yes, and I'll link it in the show notes.
But if you want to just explore physically and mentally, go out in nature, and then come and journal about it in Botanical Reflections.
All right. Well, great. Doris Lance, thank you very much for being my sixth guest. I got to go on a different hand now. So I'm a young podcast, but thank you very much for being on here. It's been a pleasure.
You bet. I enjoyed it very much.